The Gladiator tanks make up the main battle tanks of the Primaris Marines. They come in three major variations. We've already covered the Lancer and the Reaper, and now we're covering the close-ranged Monster Hunter of the Gladiator Valiant, meant to act as a close-range fire base for Space Marines to deal with hard targets. Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and today we are covering the Gladiator Valiant. The Gladiator Valiant is, of course, by its lore, quite close range, and it comes in at, of course, 160 points, the same as all the other Gladiators. It has the same stat line, which is 10 inches of movement, so decently fast. Toughness 10, a 3+ save, 12 wounds, leadership 6+, and OC 3. The toughness 10 is fine enough, though will crumple to things like a dedicated anti-tank, though is quite resilient to small arms. The 3+ save really appreciates cover, and of course does not want to get hit by things like Melta. And speaking of ranged weapons, this thing comes with two side-mounted multi-meltas, which have Melta 2, 18-inch range, 2 attacks, +6 skill 3+, strength 9, AP 4, and damage d6. This is probably the best weapon on the tank, and it really does need to get close to use them. Then on the turret, we of course have the Twin Last Talon, which is twin, 36-inch range, 2 attacks that hit on 3s, strength 10, AP 3, and damage d6 +1. This is mainly let down by its low strength, as comparing it to the Lancer, it's not even fair. And this thing has a much shorter range than the Lancer, as well as in general much lower damage, which is quite unfortunate as I quite like the look of the weapon. Then on the pintle, like the other Gladiators, you can mount the Heavy Stubber, which is rapid fire 3, 36-inch range, 3 attacks, hit on 3s at strength 4, AP 0, and damage 1. Then of course you can also mount a Icarus Rocket Pod, which is anti-fly, 2+, D3 attacks, hit on 3s, 24-inch range, strength 8, AP 1, and damage 2. So this thing really does need to get close to use most of its weapons. The multi-meltas are essential for this thing to even scratch the damage that the Lancer's doing, and even then it is still quite difficult as you need to get within 9-inch range, and even then you will still be struggling to match the Lancer. Close combat is completely forgettable. 3 attacks, 6, AP 0, damage 1, don't charge this thing. In terms of abilities, Deadly Demise D3 is fairly standard for a tank of this size, and can have some impact if this thing dies in the heart of the enemy army. That could of course allow to crack some harder targets. Then its ability is add 1 to hit rolls when targeting the nearest monster or vehicle. This is not great, in my opinion, for a myriad reason. First of all, it's already hitting on 3, so hitting on 2s, while certainly a buff, is not huge, and Space Marines will often be shooting at what they need to most with the Oath of Moment mechanic. This also only applies to the closest thing, so if you don't really have any monsters or vehicles that are terribly close, that are worth shooting at, this is effectively a pointless rule. As well as the fact that this thing doesn't really need help hitting, it needs help wounding, as all of its weapons are strength 10 and below, which makes it quite vulnerable to things like toughness. Even 11 on something like a Lehman Russ, this thing will not be doing very well against it. I think this rule is overall by far the worst out of the 3 Gladiators, and really hurts the Valiant a lot when it really could have become something special with an interesting special rule. And beyond that, there really isn't that much to say about the Valiant. It's really by far the worst of the Gladiator tanks. Its weapons are all medium strength, sort of medium high, I'd say, and are really only good against toughness armies that are quite low. Things like Sisters, whose highest toughness, I believe, is 10, which this thing will, of course, be effective against all targets, but that doesn't really mean much when so is the Lancer. This thing does pair quite well with the Thunderstrike. If this thing gets within Melta range and you mark a vehicle or monster with +1 to wound, it will do a lot of damage, but for that same price you could buy 2 Gladiator Lancers that would be doing a very similar amount of damage every turn with no external buffs. In general, this thing also falls behind the Reaper in the fact that it's super close range but doesn't have the weapons to keep infantry off of it. The Reaper doesn't mind being up close because it can chew through entire squads of infantry in one run of shooting. This thing will not be doing that. And it needs to get super close to the enemy for its Meltas to be in range for it to do any reasonable amount of damage. Overall, the Valiant is a rather sad adage to the Gladiator lineup. If you have one, I would just run it as a Valiant and not waste your time running this god-awful tank. Anyways, I've been Spoons Rattling. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.